first things first, what is a marine journalist?
I suppose it's somebody who researches, reports news, events that happen within the marine sphere. Um, that can be offshore, inshore, fisheries, leisure, really the zone that is the marine.
Yeah,
That can be more closely defined what it is.
yeah. And how did you get into it?
I thought in anticipation of you asking that question, I'm going to show you something. I don't know if you can see it. Okay,
I
that's
can
an
see it
article.
back to front, yeah.
So it says Hooked on Hookerdom.
Yeah,
It's an article I wrote in 1994.
yeah.
I had spent a bit of time crewing on a Galway hooker called Lady Moore from the owner
Okay.
was from the Aran Islands.
Yeah,
And I was just packed with this information in my head. I had to get it out onto paper. So
yeah,
I wrote it, sent it to a friend of mine who is a journalist. It was printed in the Indo, and I thought, that's interesting. Then fast forward a couple of years, and I was in Plymouth with Sean. He was doing a hydrographic degree.
yeah.
And I came home for the summer, and a friend of mine who was then the editor of the fishing paper, The Skipper, he asked me, would I help him research some stories? So I said, look, I don't know one end of a fish from the other. He
Yeah.
said, no, you don't need to, just come with me. And I did. That was 96. And today is what, 2001. So I
Yeah,
stayed with The Skipper for
2000.
a number of years. And I was then editor. And then in 2005, we set up Inshore Ireland
Yeah,
uh, to really look at the whole marine wider than just fisheries.
yeah,
An area that I wanted to get into, and I took a chance, left the Skipper, and then set it up with my business partner, Jerry Flynn.
yeah.
And we are where we are today, and now we've gone digital.
So, right. So when I was looking at this, okay, so first off, I didn't know you'd set up the magazine. So well done. That's brilliant. Really impressive. So now that you've gone digital, it's changed from Inshore Ireland to Ocean Focus. Is that right?
Well, digital and changing the brand were two separate things. We were
Okay.
rebranding to Ocean Focus anyway,
Yeah.
because we thought it better reflected what is going on in a wider space than just inshore
Yeah.
Ireland.
Yeah.
So that was the plan, to change to Ocean Focus. And we were halfway down the production route of the spring edition of the print edition of Ocean Focus
Yeah.
when COVID happened.
Yeah.
So immediately our outlet through Eason's stopped because the Eason's network closed.
Yeah.
Local newsagents were not closing, but people couldn't get out and about.
Yeah.
Sales were just taking a bit of a tumble, and we just said, okay, instead of turning left for print, we turn right for digital.
Yeah.
And the design company that we work with, they had already really perfected this technology, which they called immerse, surf and immerse,
Yeah.
which is
Okay.
very marine-ish-esque. And it is really a lovely piece of software, and it enables you to attach a lot of rich media content and
Yeah.
files, and it's easy to navigate. So this is our first edition, and
And
it's
it's
free to download.
yeah, and it's become an awful lot more than a magazine now. You know, it's really an experience.
Yeah, well, the website hasn't changed. The website continues, runs in the
Yeah.
background or in the foreground, if you like, covering news and features and articles and opinion
Yeah.
about what goes on in the marine.
Yeah.
And then the publication is a quarterly publication, which is, we decided we'd offer this first one free
Yeah. Okay.
to try and get the brand out there, and people couldn't, not moving around so much, and we just decided we would do that, which we've done. So we're very pleased to do that.
Yeah.
So that's available on the website, and then we will put the summer edition and onwards behind a paywall
Okay. Perfect.
because there's no more print sales available. So
Yeah. So you have
you
to
have to try and make a bit of bread and butter.
exactly.
Mm.
Okay. So so you're involved since 1996. So you've seen an awful lot of change then.
Yeah.
So what are some of the major stories that you've covered in that time?
Um, I suppose one of the early biggest stories, and it's a long transition, has been fisheries, which is the move towards banning discarding. Now, that's
Yeah.
been a huge issue, and that's been driven by, not all member states have bought into it because they've had their own methods of fishing for years. So this is all trying to get a buy-in from all member states, and it's a very long process. And to try and build up the sustainability of fishing and
Yeah.
cutting down on the discarding and bycatch and fish that are needlessly slaughtered because they're prosecuted in the wrong way, overfished, etc., etc. So that's been a very big, long story. That's very contentious in some ways.
Mm.
Not all member states have bought into it.
Yeah.
I think the ethos is the right one, but it's very difficult to implement. So it has been coming in stages.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you look at today, the biggest story is, of course, renewable energy coming.
Mm.
There's targets now to produce 70% of Ireland's energy from renewables, and
Yeah.
offshore is going to play a huge part of that.
Yeah. And how well set up is Ireland for that, for offshore?
Well, it was first explored in the late 1990s, if you like, but it's really too early. The technology is far
Yeah.
too expensive. It's a huge investment. It's an unknown resource. We have probably one of the best resources there is. So there's a lot to be said in that regard. But
Yeah.
perfecting the technology, getting the investment behind it, it was really too early in the late 1990s. So even
Yeah.
today, government announced another 7 projects that have gone into another phase of their development process. Now, they're still years away
Mm.
because they have to go through EIA, environmental assessment,
Yeah.
impact assessment, and all those things, which is only right and proper.
Yeah.
But that's another great move today, is a show of confidence in the sector. Now, many will say it's a visual impact that shouldn't be allowed. There are loads of issues around it, but visual impact is going to be one of the major considerations.
Yeah.
And if the idea of getting floating wind farms, if they come to pass, they will be much further out to sea, and there
Yeah.
will be no visual impact. So it's not going to happen today or tomorrow, but we have to be positioned to be in a place, and I think it's the right decision.
Yeah. And you sent me an article where there's from the one where there's something set up in Rosslare with a view to enabling this. So is a lot of this planned for the East Coast, or would it be West Coast, or is it a mix?
It's a mix. Well, the only existing wind farm at the moment is on the Arkla Bank.
Okay.
So setting up hubs in other areas, offshore wind on the west coast, you have to get connectivity to a grid. So there's those considerations.
Yeah.
The east and south coast, probably at the moment, to my knowledge, are the areas that are being explored. They're possibly easier, if I say that in a small sense,
Yeah.
than west coast. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen out in the west coast.
Yeah.
The test areas are moreover down in the south coast and the east coast area. So
Yeah.
they might be the starting points, but we have to just watch this space.
Yeah. Okay. Super.
Mm.
So you talked about banning discarding just there. So just to go back to the fisheries, you'd mentioned to me previously the Fishing for Litter project. So
Yeah, that's been great. That's now it began about a year ago. Boats were encouraged to gather their litter that they do catch
yeah.
in their nets to bring it ashore, and it will be disposed of. And now most boats are buying into this, and they can
Yeah.
come into their home port. So it's optics as well as what they can actually do. And they are gathering tons and tons. I don't have the figure to my hand, it's easily found out. But
Yeah.
they are gathering a lot of litter. But it's more the ethos and the principle as well, that to try
Yeah.
and make fisheries very sustainable. Seeing nets that ghost fish, and this is huge. This is more in
Yeah.
big open waters. The damage that they do to stations and marine mammals is just unbelievable. So
Yeah.
trying to educate to a degree, a lot of it is not by design, it's by accident that these
Yeah.
nets do get cast away. And so every sector has its own place to play in what ends up in the ocean is litter.
Yeah.
And fisheries have just really bought into it, and Irish fishermen are really, really supporting this scheme. So
Yeah.
that's a really positive story. Yeah.
And just the logistics of how that works. So that's a fisherman goes out, he's on his normal route fishing. And then it's just that any waste he's collecting, he's segregating. He's got a
Yeah.
catch bag there for it.
Yeah, and it's brought ashore and then it's disposed of properly, properly
Yeah.
disposed of. So it's right from the net through to the recycling centres or however it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
It's
really
really good,
interesting.
and it's kind of been led from fisheries development as well as the legislators. So it's department as well as BIM, the Fisheries Development Board. So,
Yeah.
and as I say, the harbour masters, the fishermen, the fishing fleets, the producer organisations, they're all buying into this because they want to see their resource better protected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. Yeah, because like I mean, if you don't have the legislation for it, you're not
yeah.
really going to be at anything, are you? So how long is that in place actually? Sorry, the fisheries for litter.
Um, I think it began at the beginning of last year,
Okay, so not even that
2019.
long.
No, 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 it's not. I think it was, and it became, gosh, there was some deadline by the end of December 2019. I'm not going to say it was mandatory. Maybe it is. I'd have to refresh myself. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah, but it's not something that's been in place for over 5 years.
Oh
It's like
no,
literally
no, no, no,
very
no,
recent.
no, no. This is very recent. Yeah,
Yeah, well that's a great start then if there is a lot of buy-in already.
there is. Yeah, and it's enabling also. It's giving some work at the shore side because the
Yeah.
litter it has to be segregated. It has to be brought to centres, etc. So there's a lot of pieces in the chain
Yeah.
in the jigsaw.
Cool. In one of those articles as well that I had looked at, clean coasts is mentioned. So my ears pricked up for that because I'm a climate ambassador with Antarctica. So
Yeah.
do you have any experience with the Clean Coast project or
Oh, we
what do you
do.
do?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
again, we watch what's going on.
Yeah.
What we say about us is that we're a wholly independent publication and website, but we have a slight lean. I won't apologise towards the environment.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
needed.
Yeah. So, but while saying that, we will report factual content, and
Hmm.
we report all sides of the story. So, hence, yes, we are following Clean Coasts,
Yeah.
and it's again, it's communities doing it for themselves and
Yeah.
realizing the benefits that they can get from this, and that's
Yeah.
good. And it's not all one-way traffic either, because industries can be blamed for not maybe being the greenest or the most sustainable. But you've got to also say people have to be sustainable as well. You've got to be
Exactly.
able to make your living.
Yeah.
So you've just got to find ways of doing it that are more beneficial to everyone involved, be it
Yeah.
the communities, but also the stocks or the environment or whatever it is. It has to be everybody embracing it. And I think a lot of these projects are coming from bottom up as well as top down, and that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets better buy-in.
Yeah, and I think as well, just from my own view of it, looking at Clean Coast, like it's definitely in the last 2 years, it's become really popular, and people will, there's a lot of regular communities there organising beach cleans, but then it's a really popular thing, especially last year I noticed, just to have it as an event, a once off, do a beach clean, get Clean Coast involved, and
Yeah,
I think once you attend one beach clean, you realise like once you see it, you can't unsee it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
every
exactly.
time you walk on the beach afterwards, you'll see
Yeah.
it.
And I think
Um,
the likes of Clean Coasts and even Flossie and the beach cleaners,
yeah,
you know, they're great initiatives to get people aware. And then there's some support from the local authorities. So that helps by providing the bags and providing the collection points. Because if you don't give incentives for people to improve behavior, change behavior, well, then it's difficult.
yeah,
So it has to be an all involvement from the communities to the authorities and everybody, really.
yeah. And just when you mentioned Flossie, I remember the first time I heard about Flossie was when she was fundraising for the sea bin.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
how will you explain how that works to anyone who doesn't understand, and where it's
Um,
positioned in that?
oh gosh, they're okay. The actual bin, I think it works in a vortex principle,
Yeah,
so it pulls in water in the surrounding area. But if they're small
yeah.
and they're located in hotspots within a harbour or anywhere where litter gathers,
Mm,
and then if they're emptied regularly, which I believe the ones here are, then they do play a part. And again,
yeah.
it's also kind of optics as well, getting
Mm,
people to be aware that these are around and maybe think twice before you throw your crap over the side, or you just drop your litter on the ground and it gets blown into the water. So
yeah,
again, it's optics as much as anything, I think. And but it is again, I don't have the figures of what it is
yeah,
collecting. They're small,
yeah.
but it's constant.
And
So
it's, yeah, and I think it, like you said, the biggest thing that it is, it's a reminder that it's the same as being on land. If you have rubbish, you put it in a bin. So
yeah,
don't just
yeah,
throw rubbish into the sea and expect it to go nowhere.
exactly. And it breaks
Um,
the microparticles, as we know, and that's dreadful.
yeah, yeah, and even Rachel Lee had a post up today. Just she regularly will do beach cleans with her kids, and balloons are one of the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
common thing
yeah,
found, and
yeah,
yet more often than not, you're down at the swim spots and anyone celebrating a birthday or whatever, it's the balloons are down, and then more often than not, it's windy. The
yeah,
balloons
yeah,
blow
yeah,
away,
yeah,
and where do they go?
yeah,
So
yeah.
people don't even join the dots on that.
I
And
think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just people aren't. I totally know people don't go out there in badness trying to litter. It's
No,
it's
no.
just you don't think of where things are
The
going to end up.
consequence of what happens.
Yeah,
It's like dogs fouling on a beach. You know, people might say, and you think they're kind of right in saying, well, look, if the dog just has a whatever on the seashore, it's grand there. But one dog turd can pollute a huge volume of water. And
yeah,
people don't realize that. And the tide comes in and washes it back out again. So those
yeah,
are, we're burying it in the sand. The sand becomes exposed. So that
yeah,
dog dirt gets washed out to sea.
yeah,
So pick it up. Don't just bring your dog down to the seashore to have a crap.
yeah.
Please pick it up as well and bring it home. You're just polluting the water, same as
Yeah,
you're polluting the land.
and I think that's a really good point is bring it home or bin it properly because
Yeah,
especially at Killiney, there's a bin, a dog poo bin, and you'll always see bags of dog poo left around it. And I don't know if all those bags are compostable. And even with the compostable
yeah,
bags, I don't know what they break down into.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's the proper disposal. It's not
Yeah.
just, oh, I've left it beside a bin, so it's fine.
I mean, I think if somebody was only going to do that, you'd be better off almost leaving it because
Yeah,
it decomposes more naturally. So putting it in a bag,
exactly.
you think I'm doing the right thing. No, you're not.
Yeah,
Bring it home or dispose of
exactly.
it in a bin.
Yeah.
Simple as really.
Yeah, so just while we're talking about the plastics, then I know 2018 was kind of one of the significant changes that Ireland brought in with the microbeads. And I
Yeah,
know before that, a lot of people would use their exfoliators and not even
yeah,
consider what made the little rough beads in their exfoliator.
yeah. A lot of products are now using rice particles, and that's
Okay.
that's to be commended. You
Yeah.
see, it will say there's rice particle in it now. I suppose not as many as we would want, and that may happen. It will happen because the legislation is in place. I don't know how if it's at the again. I'd have to just look back on it, but the directive is there. But there would be a time for transition.
Yeah.
Um, so not all products would be disallowed yet.
Yeah.
I think legislation is brought to try and bring people along and explain what you're doing because companies have to have time to adjust.
Yeah.
It's
Of
okay to
course.
do it for X years, so they have to be able to wind down and
Yeah.
change habit and get the equipment because you have to build new technologies and new
Yeah.
equipment and machinery, etc. So it's not just flicking a switch.
Yeah, and it's even like when the plastic bags were banned in 2002, like there was a good time afterwards where you could still purchase the bag for 15
Yeah,
cents, but I don't think those 15-cent bags even exist anymore, you know, and it's something,
I don't think so.
yeah, like it phased out without us even noticing. So
Yeah.
it was done in a really good way, I suppose, that
And I
it
think
came
that's
in
a
and
really good sign because, I think Ireland often has the profile of being, oh, the sloppy Irish, the drunken
yeah,
Irish, blah, 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 can't follow a law to save their lives. Well, we've kind of shown between the smoking ban and the plastic bag ban, they just happened.
yeah,
And most people have bought into it. And
yeah.
way, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
suppose the next stage now is the single-use plastics, and I know there was a lot of
Yeah.
talk around it, and I think that was probably the difference with the single-use plastics. The smoking ban and the plastic bags seem to come in overnight, and the single-use plastics, there's a bit more conversation about it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure we were very well on the way to it. Maybe with COVID, things have, people have gone a little bit back towards single-use plastics, but I think after
Yeah.
I think even still, people are still, doing what they can, and they're more aware anyway, at least.
And I even noticed in my own supermarket and local butchers that they have introduced packaging that is compostable, but they don't actually say it on it. So if you don't
Oh,
say it, people don't necessarily know, and they're just
yeah,
chucking it into their grey bin. So I said to them, could you not ask whoever's producing these bags to say, please compost me, or
yeah,
help people? Sometimes logic just doesn't seem to play a part.
yeah,
So hopefully you look, and again going back to fisheries, the polystyrene boxes that they have been using, a lot of those have been phased out with I think it's a compostable type of a box, so that's
yeah.
really good news because polystyrene is one
Really
dreadful
bad.
product.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now it can be recycled in many ways, but better not to produce it in the first instance. And again, it's going to take quite a while to phase all this in because you're looking at directives that govern 28 member states.
yeah,
And 28 member states have to buy in, or 27 after the end of December, without the
yeah.
UK. So, it has to be buy-in from,
And
from
that's
everyone.
the thing. It's, a lot of stuff has happened from the bottom up where it's consumer driven, where they want to bring their keep cups. They are asking not to have cutlery with their takeaway and things like that.
Yeah.
But while the stuff is being produced, people
Mm.
will always use it.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there's a huge element as well where it just has to stop being produced. It just
Yeah.
has to cease existing, and then
Yeah.
then we'll
And
be
again,
stepping forward.
you have to allow companies time to adjust
Yeah,
because they've got orders going back, they've got equipment. They
yeah,
can't just turn a switch overnight.
yeah,
So they've got to be enhanced, encouraged, and supported to make those changes. And those changes are happening.
yeah. And
You
I'm
know,
sure, yeah, like no more than making the changes, there's probably massive stockpiles as well
sure.
because
Yeah.
all of these products they don't really have a shelf life, do they?
No. Exactly.
So there's God
Yeah.
knows how many warehouses there are full of them that we need to get
Yeah.
through first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's even, another thing for ourselves and our products. Like I know we talked about the microbeads, but something I'd be conscious of as well is just the chemicals in products and especially
Mm.
sun cream. But like that, it's whatever I would say to people, it's more along the lines of try to be less wasteful. So you don't
Yeah.
run out and buy all these new green products. You use what you have and replace as you go rather
Yeah.
than just
Yeah.
dumping full bottles because that's kind of a bit against the point as well.
Yeah, exactly. They're already made.
Yeah,
So use it, dispose of it as best you can, and
yeah,
maybe don't then replace with something better if you can.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I was going to talk about orcas as well because I was chatting to Kath Pendleton last week and we had the lovely orca experience with her.
Yeah.
And then of course the orcas showed up off
Yeah.
the northeast coast
Yeah.
there. So have you covered many stories on sea life?
Um, yeah, I mean, again, it's just part of the whole mix of what we do.
Yeah,
Not orcas. I believe they can be seen in Irish waters. As we know,
yeah,
sharks are quite common, but Orcas, I have not heard, but that's probably because I just haven't heard. I think
Yeah,
they are quite common, or not too discommon or
yeah.
uncommon. Yeah, it's quite a fascinating story. I believe they're not too interested in us, but if I saw a fin in the water when I was swimming,
But the
I'm not
size
gonna,
of the fin,
yeah,
you know, it's like we're used to seeing small fins, and even when we see the dolphins out by the Vico there, you know, as much as you're like, yeah, it's lovely swimming with a dolphin, you're still a bit like, oh,
absolutely. You don't know, there could be a rogue dolphin, I'm not going to hang around. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's lovely to see these mammals now. Of course, the other thing that you know well about is jellyfish, and they've really extended their reach into, like, there's always populations here.
yeah,
We're getting them earlier. I think we're getting other strains or species that haven't been here before. They're swimming further north because waters are warming.
yeah,
Sunfish, their predator is, and turtles are diminishing.
yeah,
So I think the presence of jellies are here to stay, and it's something we're seeing a lot of in Irish coastal waters, big time.
yeah. And that's specifically something that somebody did ask me to pose as a question.
Mm.
Because even in Galway, there's been some of the phosphorescence type of gooseberry jellyfish, and like I've never seen them down there. You know, so it's every year there seems to be something new that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of research going on, like NUI Galway, um, and some of the other institutes are researching the prevalence of jellies in Irish waters,
Yeah,
and looking at what has been a change in the coverage and their how far north they're getting. Now, as I say, there are populations always in Irish waters,
yeah,
but I think we're getting more different types of jellyfish and larger populations and greater numbers.
yeah,
So it all, I think, is part of the mix of the waters are possibly warming, their natural predators being sunfish and turtles are under pressure. So, as I
yeah.
say, it's all part of the mix.
Yeah, I saw a sunfish in South Africa actually, but where else would you find sunfish? Do you know?
Gosh, good question. I'm not too sure. Bay Biscay may
Yeah,
have a population,
yeah,
or is it further south in the Atlantic? I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah.
But
They're
I
warm
do.
water anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other great
Um,
story, of course, here in Irish waters is seaweed.
yeah, actually.
Seaweed is considered a Cinderella industry and has, all the years I've been involved, it is really the back end. It's a wonderful product, but it is now being, there's a lot more research going into it.
Yeah,
There's a lot more buy-in to its uses,
yeah,
but it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be done very sustainably and keeping it with the manual harvesting. The idea of bringing in these mechanical harvesters, I think, is tantamount to really bad destruction and
yeah.
shouldn't be allowed. Yeah, and
That's
there's
exactly what I was going to say about seaweed because it's something that I know from the west of Ireland. It's always manual harvest.
yeah.
And then when you see the rise in popularity, is is that a huge fear now with it that it's going to become too big of an industry?
Oh, absolutely. And there are companies, international companies, who are looking to buy license here. There's one
Okay.
case down in Bantry, which has been ongoing for quite some time. A company has got a license, but it's been objected to. Local population have been very vocal in their objection to allowing mechanical harvesting in Bantry Bay,
Yeah.
because it really is going to deplete the
Yeah.
resource, because the very nature of how it's harvested,
Yeah.
seaweed is very delicate. It has to be left to rejuvenate, and if you pull the root,
Yeah.
it's not going to replenish. So you have to leave a certain level of it in the shoreline, and this is a very large site that's been approved, but they've managed to hold up harvesting to date through different objections, and
Okay.
I think that's still, it's going back to the High Court, I think, again, later this summer, I think.
Okay.
So, and again, I know on the West Coast as well, there are sites that have been bought out. And again, local harvesters are really anxious that it is a traditional way of life. There is many uses for seaweed, but it has to be done sustainably.
Yeah.
And that's a word that's overplayed, I think, but in this context, there is no other way but seaweed. And kelp farms could be huge areas that can help to stop coastal erosion.
Yeah.
So councils are buying into the marine as a resource to be supported and used, and not something that's seen through the back window. And
Yeah.
it's changing. It really is. That environment is changing. And I think the more research that's done, the more people who advocate for it and do it right, it's coming right. But it's a pushing a door that's partially open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the uses of seaweed, I think people, well, women will typically think, I suppose, of seaweed products, seaweed baths, things like that. There's other people who think of the edibles. But you mentioned like a seaweed farm, the carbon element of it. Is that something that's taken into consideration, or like what other uses is seaweed pulling people in
Well,
for?
biomeds is a big one,
Yeah,
because of natural products. So, but you know, you have to have a certain sustainable supply chain. So, is it bought in? Where do you get? If a company wants to produce biomeds using seaweed, and if it is a proven technology, where are they going to get the seaweed supply chain?
yeah,
So it's a big process, but it's certainly one that's being heavily researched at the moment, and it's becoming more so in the last 2 years. I am seeing more papers written about the uses of seaweed, more about how it might be seaweed farms. Can we introduce seaweed farms? Could areas be set aside for seaweed farms?
mm,
So all of that is it's very encouraging that the
yeah,
marine resource has been seen as a place to grow as well as to take from.
yeah.
And
That's brilliant.
then seaweed provides nursery beds for fisheries
Yeah,
and all sorts of marine life. And the marine, you know, that old saying, we're an island nation, we are, and we just, if people knew the value of the resource
yeah,
to be sustained and exploited, but exploitment has to be very heavily regulated. And
yeah,
I think people understand that.
yeah. Um, on seaweed farms, then, if they were to be established, is it all native species that are being considered, or is it something that they would look to bring in other species?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
presume if you're cultivating what is there already, well,
yeah,
then the native species.
yeah,
Introduction of any non-native species of anything is really suspect
yeah,
and can become the predominant species and the native species. So I do loads of research students researching all of this. So anyone who's interested in that kind of a answer, I'll certainly try get those answers or talk to the guys out in NUI Galway, the Marine Institute, etc. There's just many agencies working on this.
yeah. You broke up for a couple of seconds there, but I got the end of it where you'd look into
Great.
the answer. Okay, so that's all we need
Okay,
to
I've
know.
pinned myself to that one, have I?
It's always a good answer. So any other interesting stories from your times that you want to share?
Gosh, oh, not really. I mean, it's very varied. It's been a really interesting journey so
Yeah,
far. I suppose what I'm also involved with, look, well, because Sean, you know Sean,
yeah,
he's heading up this. He's co-project manager for the seabed mapping program.
yeah,
So seeing some of the results of seabed mapping of what is beneath the waves in Irish territorial waters. We own the seabed, we don't own the water column.
mm,
So mapping this area, which is up to 10 times, I think 7, 10 times larger than our landmass, it's huge. It goes halfway out to the continental shelf.
yeah. So I was
It's a
going to
big
ask
area.
that. What area is he mapping? Is it the 12 mile,
No,
or is it?
no,
Yeah.
it's what we own. It's
Okay.
our seabed territory.
Yeah.
So it is an area that is 7 times larger than the landmass. It's very large.
Yeah.
In the Irish Sea, it's literally halfway down
Mm,
because we share that with the UK.
yeah.
and in north of Ireland. But out, it's, if you imagine the map of Ireland and you just look west, it's a huge chunk out there.
I have a picture of it on the fridge, and
it's nearly 500,000 square.
yeah,
What is it? Square meter. Yeah, it's huge. It's
yeah,
absolutely colossal. And this project started in 97.
yeah.
So all of the offshore mapping is pretty much complete. And the more tricky mapping is inshore because you're in and around
Okay,
the islands, the inlets, every rock has to be surveyed
yeah,
and getting the boats in there. They're using drone footage.
yeah.
Uh, so that's a really tricky project and it's ongoing and it's producing amazing
Dare I
information.
ask about the grey areas of the northwest? Have they been mapped, or what was done with those areas?
How do you mean?
The around the Rockall Trough where the ownership
Well,
is in question.
I think they have mapped up to where they can,
Okay.
but Rockall Island is not in our water.
Yeah.
Um, I think the contour is just south of it,
Okay.
and that's quite often disputed. But to
Yeah.
my knowledge, we don't go quite to Rockall.
Okay.
The issue about fisheries is different.
Yeah.
Our contour line is not to Rockall. It could be something like 50 kilometers south, something
Okay.
small.
Okay.
That's to my knowledge, but again, I'll be
Yeah.
correct on that.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
probably
no,
have,
I have a particular affinity to Rockall because when I was a Navy cadet, I took a trip out there. So
wow, nice.
not
It's
many people can say they've been there.
no, definitely not. It's wild country, isn't it?
It's wild, very wild.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we've a few people watching in. I'll ask if anybody has questions. They can put the questions in there. It's on a very broad scope.
Okay.
Um, but we can keep chatting for a few minutes while that happens if anybody has questions. So we might go back to the swimming maybe. So for anyone who wasn't on at the start, we were just chatting about getting back to the 40 foot. So
Oh, yeah.
how was it all?
It was great. It really was lovely. The water is just alive with plankton at the moment,
Yeah,
and when you come home and you're rinsing out your swimwear, it really smells
yeah,
strong of
yeah,
plankton. And there's a lot, you can see it. And a
yeah,
lot of seals around at the moment. I counted 11 today
yeah.
who
I've
were
never seen
quite
that
close
many
to it.
down.
Yeah, just basking out in the sun. But it was
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah,
It's just great to be back.
yeah.
Loving it, yeah.
And for you, because you know, a lot of people during this time have had a very relaxed time. They've, you know, had to embrace the slowdown, whereas you've been the opposite. You've been up to the max really with the changeover from print to online. So
Yeah.
like you must really feel the benefit of getting back into the water.
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah,
Working from home was no change because I work from home anyway, so there
yeah,
was no big change to me there. But not having access to the water was just really tough.
yeah,
But after when we moved to the just coming up to the 5K, I was then able to, because I'm just on the 5K from 40 foot.
yeah,
So I was able to go down and just being back in the water is just amazing.
yeah. And I suppose that level of plankton in the water, that's probably to you know, that's probably why we have so much life showing up
Oh
the
yeah,
all over
definitely.
the coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's something actually I'd asked my Galway group because you know between the Baskin Sharks, this is the Atlantic Masters who I swim with in Galway. So between the Baskin Sharks down off Clare and then there's a lot more like I never knew actually there's a local dolphin in Galway. In Nemo, he swims along Nemo's pier there. So I was seeing loads of pictures of that dolphin, but then there's other seals and dolphins showing up off the coast of Galway. But like, I just wondered, is it a case of we're taking the time and we're actually seeing this stuff, or is there an actual increase in what's there?
I don't know, but it could be a little bit of both.
I think so, yeah.
Um, a great NGO who can probably help answer that question is Coast Watch.
Yeah. Okay.
They have observers all around the coast. And yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so what are the swim plans? And what way does your work actually? Are you like not 9 to 5 Monday to Friday? Have you set those office hours, or is it as news comes in?
No, I kind of work towards deadlines when
Yeah,
certainly when we were in print. Now it'll be the same for the online. It will be a production of 40 pages of content.
yeah,
So we will decide when that's coming out, and we're quarterly, seasonal. So
yeah,
our next issue is probably the end of June. So we're always building stories, researching them, talking to people. But if I choose to work at 3 in the morning, that's fine.
yeah.
I
Okay,
need to get work done, and then I
yeah,
can choose to go swimming. So I'm very lucky in that way.
yeah. It's great actually because then you can roll with the tides, really, can't you?
Exactly. And I do.
Yeah. Okay, super. So anything else you want to talk about, or will we wrap up?
No, it's been fun
Yeah,
talking, and
yeah.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
learned a lot because, there's a lot of things I wonder and I don't actually know the information. So it's great
yeah.
to be able to talk to someone with so much experience.
And just to say again, if anyone is interested in seeing the publication, it's free to download for this issue. So go on to www.oceanfocus.ie, and
Yeah.
there it is.
And it's definitely well worth a look because you've obviously got the lovely feature on Antarctica where all your pictures are included.
Thank you.
And it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for
Great
taking the
talking to
time.
you.
Hmm?
Take care. Talk
Thanks.
to you
Bye. Bye bye.
soon.